The rain hammered against the windows of our small apartment in Portland, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Bertram, a 43-year-old architect, stared at the email on my screen, each word a fresh stab wound. It was from a burner account addressed to my wife, Hester. The subject line was simple: tonight. The content was anything but, "Can't wait to feel your skin against mine again. Meet me at the usual place, 8 p.m. I'll be thinking of you all day." It was signed CMY. Hands trembled as I reread the message, trying to convince myself it was a mistake, a cruel joke. But deep down, I knew. The usual place, I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly where that was. A small, secluded bar near Hester's office, a place she often claimed to be working late. Hester and I had been married for 15 years. We'd met in college, two awkward art students bonding over a shared love of obscure films and cheap coffee. We'd built a life together, a quiet, comfortable existence filled with Sunday brunches, weekend hikes, and the comforting rhythm of shared routines. Or so I thought. Looking back, maybe there were signs I missed. Hester, a talented graphic designer, had been working longer hours lately, claiming a demanding new project at her firm. She'd become more distant, less affectionate. Our conversations had dwindled to perfunctory exchanges about the weather and the grocery list. I'd attributed it to stress, to the pressures of her job. I'd even tried to be more supportive, cooking her favorite meals, running errands, trying to ease her burden. I was a fool. The sea haunted me. Who was he? A colleague, a friend, a stranger? The possibilities swirled in my mind, each more agonizing than the last. I felt a surge of anger, hot and blinding. But beneath the anger was a deeper, more profound sense of betrayal. Hester was my best friend, my confidant, the woman I'd promised to spend my life with. How could she do this to me? I spent the next few hours in a daze, pacing the apartment, replaying our marriage in my head, searching for clues, for answers. I considered confronting Hester immediately, but something held me back. I needed proof, concrete evidence. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As 8 p.m. approached, I made a decision. I would go to the bar, the usual place, and see for myself. I would witness the betrayal with my own eyes. It was a reckless, foolish plan driven by a desperate need for closure. The bar was dimly lit, crowded with after-work drinkers. I stood in the shadows near the entrance, scanning the faces. It didn't take long. Hester was sitting at a table in the corner, laughing, her hand resting on the arm of a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, handsome, with a confident smile. He leaned in close, whispering something in her ear, and Hester giggled, her eyes sparkling. It was a look I hadn't seen in years, a look of pure, unadulterated joy. I watched them for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding in my chest, my stomach churning. They were holding hands, their fingers intertwined. They were flirting, laughing, sharing secrets. They were in their own little world, oblivious to my presence, oblivious to the pain they were inflicting. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over to their table, my hands clenched into fists. Hester looked up, her eyes widening in shock. "Bertram," she stammered, her face paling. "What are you doing here?" The man stood up, his eyes narrowed. "Who is this?" he asked, his voice cold. "I'm her husband," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "And you are?" he smirked. "Call me Clarence." The next few minutes were a blur. Accusations were hurled, tears were shed, lies were exposed. Hester denied everything at first, claiming Clarence was just a friend, a colleague. But the truth was written all over her face. She was caught, trapped in her own web of deceit. I walked away from the bar that night, my heart shattered, my world turned upside down. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside me raged on. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing: my marriage was over. The days that followed were a nightmare. I moved out of our apartment, found a small, sterile room in a boarding house. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think. The pain was all-consuming, a constant ache in my chest. I replayed the scene at the bar over and over in my head, torturing myself with the image of Hester and Clarence together. I told a few close friends about the affair. Most were supportive, offering words of comfort and encouragement. But one friend, Leland, a gruff, no-nonsense mechanic, offered something else, a suggestion for revenge. "Don't let her get away with this, Bertram," Leland said, his eyes blazing with anger. "Make her pay." I initially dismissed the idea. Revenge wasn't my style. I was a pacifist, an artist, a lover, not a fighter. But as the days turned into weeks, the pain and anger festered, slowly poisoning my soul. I started to think about revenge, to fantasize about ways to make Hester suffer as I had suffered. I learned that Clarence was a project manager at a large construction firm, known for his ruthless ambition and his willingness to cut corners to get ahead. I started digging, searching for dirt, for anything I could use against him. It didn't take long. I discovered that Clarence had been involved in a series of shady deals, accepting bribes, falsifying documents, and endangering the lives of his workers. He was a fraud, a cheat, a criminal. I gathered my evidence, carefully documenting each infraction, each act of corruption. Then I anonymously sent it to the authorities, to the media, to anyone who would listen. The fallout was swift and devastating. Clarence was fired from his job, his reputation ruined. He was facing multiple investigations, possible criminal charges. His life was in shambles. Hester, too, suffered the consequences of her actions. She was ostracized by her friends, her family, her colleagues. Her career was in jeopardy. She was alone, isolated, filled with regret. She came to me begging for forgiveness, pleading for a second chance. She claimed she loved me, that the affair was a mistake, a moment of weakness. But I couldn't forgive her. The trust was gone, the love was dead. I looked at her, at the woman I had once loved, and saw only a stranger. "It's over, Hester," I said, my voice cold and devoid of emotion. "We're done." I filed for divorce. The process was long and painful, but eventually it was over. I was free, finally free from Hester's lies and betrayal, but freedom came at a price. I was alone, adrift, haunted by the ghosts of my past. The revenge I had sought had brought me no satisfaction, no peace. It had only left me feeling empty, hollow. I decided to leave Portland, to start a new life, to find a new purpose. I sold my apartment, packed my belongings, and drove south towards the sun. I ended up in San Diego, a city of palm trees and beaches, a world away from the rain and shadows of Portland. I found a small studio apartment overlooking the ocean. I started painting again, pouring my emotions onto the canvas, trying to make sense of my life. One day, while walking along the beach, I met a woman named Winifred. She was a sculptor, a free spirit with a kind heart and a gentle soul. We started talking, sharing our stories, our dreams, our fears. Winifred helped me to heal, to forgive, to move on. She showed me that life was still worth living, that love was still possible. I never forgot Hester or the pain she had caused me. But I learned to let go of the anger, the resentment, the bitterness. I learned to focus on the present, to embrace the future. I found happiness again, not the naive, blissful happiness of my youth, but a deeper, more profound sense of contentment. I learned that life is full of surprises, both good and bad, and that sometimes the greatest betrayals can lead to the greatest transformations. Years later, I received a letter from Hester. She was living in a small town in Montana, working as a waitress. She had never remarried, never found happiness. She wrote that she was sorry for what she had done, that she regretted her actions every day of her life. She asked for my forgiveness one last time. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. Maybe one day I would be able to forgive her, but not yet. Not now. I closed the letter, tucked it away in a drawer, and walked down to the beach to watch the sunset with Winifred. The sky was ablaze with color, a fiery masterpiece of orange, red, and gold. I took Winifred's hand, and together we watched the sun sink below the horizon, a symbol of hope, of renewal, of the endless possibilities that lay ahead.